My name's Craig Funk, and this is The Spirit of Vinyl. This is the introductory episode of The Spirit of Vinyl. I wanted to take this time to kind of introduce myself and where I want to go with the show and what you can expect from me in the future. So, first of all, like I said, my name is Craig, and I've been collecting records basically my whole life, but I've never been a hardcore collector until more recently. Recently, I'd saying 6, 7 years ago, maybe 8 to 10 tops. I had records when I was younger as a teenager, of course, and it was the 80s when I came of age. And, we were listening to lots of hard rock and heavy metal. That's what I'm into, is sort of the rock and roll lifestyle, the rock and roll style of music, rock, heavy rock, thrash, you know, anything that's rock and roll. The only genre I'm not really interested in is like country music. I have some of that in this record collection, but not too much. And most of that came secondhand, which is a story I'll tell here in a minute. I have some punk and metal, 80s metal, thrash metal, all that type of stuff in here, plus 60s rock and roll and bands like Zeppelin and stuff like that. So anyway, what I want to do is talk about my record collection on this show. And why I want to talk about my record collection, I will kind of tell that story right now. So what happened is I had records throughout my life as a teenager. And as time goes on and we moved on to CDs, those kind of went to the back, and I didn't have many. They went to the back of the closet. You lose the record players through divorces or whatever the hell happens. And one time, me and my wife, we were moving into our first house about 8 years ago or something like that. And she found my box of vinyl records in the back of the closet and said, "What are these doing back here?" And I says, "Well, fuck, they're just, records I had as a teenager, and I have no way of playing them, and I've never had a room for them. So they've just been in the closet for years and years." So she's like, "Well, we're moving to this new house. We'll get you a room. You can have one of the spare rooms. We'll put a record player in there and you can start listening to your records again." And that was fucking great. And it was great. It was a good throwback, a good flashback to being a teenager again and listening to my old Kiss records and my AC/DCs and different things that I've had since I was, 13, 14, whatever, teenage years. So that was cool. And that also inspired me to start buying more records and start looking at my collection and saying, "Hey, what happened to my copy of Shout at the Devil by Motley Crue? How come I don't have that anymore? I don't ever get rid of it, but it's not in this box. So where is it?" So replace it. Go to the record store, buy new ones. It kind of started that. And that's kind of where I went. And I just went along with like replacing the records that I loved as a teenager. And I didn't have a huge collection. I had, 100 or so, and they were things I listened to all the time. And I was never buying anything extra. It was just replacing the records I used to own and buying some records of albums and bands that I really loved and trying to build some of that collection up. So that's kind of where I was at. And I wasn't crazy about it or anything. And it was just this thing, and I started going to some record store days here and there and picking up, Sgt. Pepper's or the Rolling Stones, Satanic Majesty's Request, things like that I wanted because I loved those albums. And I was a moderate collector at the time, I guess you'd say. Then we moved across the country about 2 years ago. We moved here to the nice, wonderful town of Clarksville, Tennessee, which is where I'm coming to you from today. And at my job, I work daily as a garbage man. I haul the big containers. I don't do residential. I haul the big ones you pick up and go dump that are mostly at construction sites and rebuilds and different things like that. So one day I'm picking up a can and I'm always kind of looking inside to see what's in it because you never know what you might find something valuable. And I saw some vinyl records. So I'm like, holy shit, those are records. And I start pulling them out and I'm finding Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Kiss, AC/DC, Pink Floyd, all these types of records in there that are all in like near mint condition. They're still wrapped in plastic. They're not dinged. They were in boxes or totes or whatever, and they were just in this dumpster. So I climb in the dumpster and start pulling out records. And by the time I get done taking my time and going through and putting them in totes and loading them up and taking them home and everything, there was 500 in this record collection. that I found in the garbage. And I'm not talking about garbage records. Some of them were, there was a couple that were kind of garbage records, but there were probably always garbage records for this guy. Basically, I found somebody's whole collection. There was probably 400 or 500 of them in there. So I went, and like I said, all these were like near mint. This was the find of the century. This was the find of the century. I'm never going to find anything like this. We all, as vinyl collectors, wish we could just come across piles of records just sitting there waiting to be taken for free. And I'm talking thousands of dollars worth of near mint vinyl records. Every one of these records was in the plastic sleeves. They had inner sleeves. They had all the inserts, all of the sleeves on the inner sleeves, all the lyric sheets. There was a bunch of Japanese pressings. All the obi strips are still intact. All the lyric sleeves, the Japanese printed lyric sleeves, they were all still intact. Everything was perfect. All the records were shiny. No skips, no scratches, no nothing. These things were perfect. They were like brand new. This is a well taken care of collection. How they end up in the dumpster, I have no idea. As all I know is I found them. So over time, like a year or so, it took me going through and deciding what I was going to keep and what I wasn't going to keep. And I kept a whole bunch of it. And there was stuff that was kind of obscure that I didn't really know. And I started selling some things. I had first pressings of like Metallica albums, and I started buying and selling different things. And basically, I bought and sold off of that collection for about a year. Sell what I didn't want, buy stuff off eBay or Discogs or whatever. I took some to my local record store and got store credit, and I bought and sold records and all that, and kept, I don't know, a couple, 200-300 maybe out of that collection that I intermingled with my own. And I found during the process the guy's name who had the record collection. I Googled him. He had died a few years beforehand. So how his records ended in the dumpster, I have no idea, because where I found it wasn't where the guy lived. He lived like 30 miles away. So you'd think his record collection, if it was ended up in a dumpster, would have been there. So I have no idea how it ended up in my hands. But I feel like the universe was talking to me saying, these are yours. Take care of these. So that's what I've done. I've took care of them and I've loved them. And there's things in there by bands that I've always liked, bands like Motorhead and Judas Priest and stuff like that, that I've always liked, but I never really owned any of their music. Like for me, Priest was always a band. Yeah, everything on the radio is cool. Saw them live in concert a few times and they're awesome. And Rob Halford is a fucking metal god. And we all understand that, but I've never owned Judas Priest albums. Really. Now I've got a whole bunch of them, Birdie Steele and Point of Entry and all this stuff. All this was found in this record collection. So having that record collection mixed in with my own record collection also was mixed in from a friend of mine's smaller collection. When he died, I got his records, 75 or so. His was mostly 60s, bands like Jefferson Airplane and the Beatles and some Black Sabbath and stuff like that I've also incorporated. I started realizing that record collections have a spirit all their own, and they tell the story of you and me and the persons who's behind it. So these records coming in to being combined into my record collection now has its own spirit and tells a story about the people of where it came from and who loved it and so on. So I kind of want to talk about that. So the concept of this show is, like I said, sort of a podcast idea where I'll talk about the record collection and different things that are in here, what they mean to me, what they might have meant to the people who owned them beforehand. I will show the actual records themselves and the pressing so you can see how nice some of these are and what we have and how they sound, and kind of do mini record reviews or whatever. So that's the concept and the idea in the beginning of this show. I'm hoping to put out shows at least weekly or whatever. So I hope you guys think this idea is a good idea and decide to watch and listen and kind of cut me some slack, because I honestly have no idea what I'm doing other than I have a nice little camera I'm staring into and I have a fairly decent microphone in front of me. I have done podcasting in the past, but never video before, so this is a new thing for me. I really appreciate you guys tuning in and watching, and hopefully you'll watch some more episodes and we'll discuss different things. Mostly, like I said, the records in the collection, but, sometimes we'll go, the topic of collecting records and what we found, and especially during things like, record store day or whatever, and discuss the different things and kind of go from there. And it's just going to be you and me, and hopefully I'll get some comments and so on. But this is just the introductory episode, so I really thank you for listening or watching or whatever. I will say listening often, being a former podcaster. I will say listening instead of watching because I'm still getting used to the YouTube thing. So I really appreciate it. I'm hoping this is going to be something that we can enjoy together. I'll enjoy doing and you'll enjoy watching. So until next time, I will talk to you later. Have a good week crate digging or whatever it is you're going to do. All right. See you later. Bye.